How do I share my screen? Hello. I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen. As I've mentioned before, I don't really do lives very much, so I'm kind of new to this. I know there's a way to share my screen. Ah, there it is. So I think this will work. Um, yeah, I don't know if this is working. There we go. I think it's working.
Or something far more complex. People, what truly drives a person to kill? Is it
This
love,
is my
jealousy,
latest video.
obsession, or something far more
And
complex? People aren't simple.
I just
They
thought,
aren't defined by
hey, maybe
one
I could talk
label
about it
or one moment.
and watch it at the
Every
same time.
choice, every
I've
crime
never done this
stems
before.
from a mixture of emotions, fears, and desires that collide into one single moment. Welcome to Timeless Mysteries. Please like and subscribe. Today we're examining 3 criminal cases connected by one single thread: the need for control. But here's the paradox: it's not the control they will ever truly obtain, but it is the control that they've always wanted. These chilling stories share something deeper than murder, something that raises unsettling doubts about human nature, which begs the question: how far will fear push you? When does fear become obsession? And when does obsession become deadly? Stick around. You don't want to miss this.
Yoga instructor convicted of murder, Caitlin Armstrong, receiving a hefty sentence after what was an emotional trial.
Caitlin Armstrong, by all.
There we go. Yeah, so I made this video a couple weeks ago. It's the first time I've made a video like this where I talk about multiple stories in a short amount of time. It was actually pretty fun, but I kind of didn't go over all the details that I normally like to go over. So, it's kind of a new format for me when I make these videos. And I was just kind of curious how people would like it. Um, the funny thing is that it's got a whole bunch of views, but nobody actually watched it. It's weird. I don't know how or why it's doing that, but um, let's see. I'm working on a really interesting story about Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer. It's pretty. It's kind of scary. I won't lie. And it's kind of I'm having a hard time with the video part. So yeah, it's going to take a little while. Today, I'm actually we had this like windstorm, so I was planning on doing all this recording and stuff today, but I didn't get to it. Um, so I thought I would come on here and talk and see how it goes, see if I could ever really get used to doing lives. I know there's a couple of you watching here, and I appreciate that. Just know that I'm kind of not a live stream expert by any means, and it's kind of weird. I don't know where to look, and I don't know what I'm actually going to say. So, but I did want to kind of talk about this. this topic, because I don't cover a lot of the actual crimes. I kind of mention what happens, but the real interesting part of these particularly these three stories, is that it starts with this fear of losing something that drives them to kill. And when I make these videos, one of my favorite things about true crime is that I get a chance to actually think about why this is happening, why people do this stuff. What I'm finding out as I've been a true crime channel for going on like a year now is that I actually don't like the gore. I don't like, if I hear there's 27, someone gets stabbed 27 times, like that's enough for me. I don't need to know like what angle that they're stabbed, or how long it took for them to like die. But that kind of stuff really is hard to digest. And I know I talk a lot about Chris Watts on this channel, but the children also get to me too. Not just Chris's kids, but anything that's got a child involved with it. It's just especially hard for me to talk about the actual crime, so much as like catching the killer, or why the killer would do this. But in this one, Caitlin Armstrong was a regular person. She had no idea that she was going to wake up one morning and kill somebody. And I'll play this little bit of this. If you
Appearances
haven't heard
was
this
a
story,
calm,
it's
centered
pretty
yoga
interesting.
instructor, someone you'd expect to be in perfect emotional balance. Yet her composure unraveled the moment she suspected her life was slipping away. Her boyfriend, Colin Strickland, had reconnected with pro cyclist Mo Wilson, a figure from his past. Whether Mo posed a real threat depends on who you ask. But for Caitlin, it appeared she was being replaced. That fear, that primal, gut-wrenching fear, triggered a descent into violence. On May 11th, 2022, Caitlin tracked down Mo at one of Mo's friend's house. There was no confrontation, no plea for understanding. Instead, Caitlin pulled out a 9mm pistol and shot Mo multiple times, leaving her lifeless body to bleed out on the floor of Mo's friend's house. It's easy to
So that is one crazy story. Like, it's a regular person. It's really, truly a regular person who does this. And, you know, she is probably, one of those people who could easily find somebody new, but she's formed this identity of herself around her relationship. So at the moment, whenever, her boyfriend is talking to his ex-girlfriend, she starts to worry about it. And she gets fixated on what's going to happen if this like if their relationship ends and he goes back to his ex. It turns into this fantasy that in her head must be playing out in a way that she feels that this actually helps her, you know remain who she is, but it doesn't. I mean, obviously she went to jail. She fled to Costa Rica, and um, uh, it's a crazy story. Um, and I mean, how do people get guns like this for this? I mean, it's just insane to me when you think about it. I couldn't imagine, going to a yoga place for years, and then one day I find out that my yoga instructor murdered somebody. People who do yoga, they're supposed to be more or less kind of, a centered, balanced person. I mean, that's what yoga is, right? It's balancing and being centered, and, using your core strength to do whatever they do. But yeah. Um, but I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And I mean, the ex girlfriend had nothing to do with it, probably. I mean, she was probably just doing her own life and not even considering going back to that guy. And poof, she's killed for no good reason. And, multiple people's lives are ruined because of it. And it's crazy. And then we go to let's see, we'll skip ahead. because she gets caught. Obviously, she goes to jail. But this one is also, everybody
The two
hears
had been
about
in
this
a
all the time.
relationship.
16-year-old
Not this specific murder, but a boyfriend gets jealous when the girlfriend ends the relationship and he can't let go, so he gets obsessed and he does crazy thing. This guy didn't just like go crazy. He decided that he was going to fake a kidnapping and like scare her and like come in and save the day, and then she would take him back. That was his fantasy, but it didn't work. And so once again, we're back with this fear of losing something. So he's afraid that he's going to lose what he's obsessed with, and so he takes the worst possible action, and he murders them. Um, and he doesn't even do it like some of the killers do, face to face. He just goes outside and like lurks there for hours outside of her house, and he's got a gun in his hand, and then all of a sudden he decides to shoot her bedroom wall, and the bullet goes straight in, and kills her instantly.
Emma Walker was a high school cheerleader with a bright future. But her life was cut short by her ex-boyfriend, Rowley Gull, who decided that if he couldn't have her, no one would. The term obsession is often misused to describe unrequited love, but in reality, obsession is about wanting. There is a drive to possess someone so completely that the line between admiration and control disappear. After Emma ended their relationship, Riley's behavior became increasingly erratic. He texted, called, he even staged a fake kidnapping to appear as her savior. When these tactics failed, he took a far more sinister route. One night while Emma slept, Riley stood outside of her home with his father's gun. He fired 2 shots through her bedroom wall, ending her life instantaneously. Chillingly, he never...
There is the bullet hole in the wall.
Chillingly.
I mean, it's just crazy. Like, I've heard of people getting shot through the walls of their house before, but the fact that he knew she was sleeping and he got her, like, it's crazy. This next story is even crazier because it doesn't have anything to do with the relationships and these kinds of ways. It's not passion driven, really. This guy is just afraid of losing his reputation. He's about to go to jail for all these crimes, like involving money and stuff. And he's got he comes from a prominent family, so it's gonna ruin everybody's reputation. But he does the worst thing possible, and he decides he should be a victim, and he kills his family, and hoping that he can be the distraught father who found them, and everybody will sympathize with him and they'll ignore the other crimes that he's committed. But it doesn't work out, because it usually never works out. He said he wasn't there, but the son he murdered that day decided to stream something on TikTok or something, and you can hear the father's voice in it, proving to police that he was there, and he's in jail.
The jury has reached a verdict in the double murder trial of Alex Murdaugh. That's Alex Murdaugh there waiting for the verdict. The jury, we understand, has a verdict in this case.
Hey, Nancy.
So this is live, what you're watching right now.
Oh,
Alex
I'm trying
Murdaugh's
these
quest for
lives
control
out.
extended
And
well
I'm not
beyond
really good at
personal
it yet,
relationships.
I will
As a
get better.
member of a powerful South Carolina
Thank
legal
you.
dynasty, Murtaugh's name was synonymous with influence, respect, and for some, intimidation. However, in 2021, behind the scenes, his world was unraveling. He faced mounting financial scandals, lawsuits, and an impending collapse of his carefully curated image. On June 7, 2021, Alex's desperation had reached a breaking point. He summoned his wife, Maggie, and their 22-year-old son, Paul, to the family's
Guys, hear the
expansive
video at all?
hunting estate known as the Moselle.
Maybe
Maggie
not.
initially resisted given their strained marriage, but Alex insisted they needed to gather because his father was gravely ill. Once at the kennels, Alex ambushed Paul first, using a 12-gauge shotgun at close range. Paul was struck in the chest, then fatally wounded by a second shot to the head. Next, Maggie attempted to flee, but Alex switched to a 300 blackout rifle, a weapon designed for
And
large
nearly
game like moose and
decapitated
elk,
his
and
teammate.
fired multiple shots,
And that
the
rifle
last
right
hitting
there
her in the back of
is
the
the type
head.
of rifle you can
In the
shoot
immediate
a
aftermath,
mile away
Alex
and
portrayed
kill a
himself
moose.
as the grief-stricken patriarch, frantically calling 911 to report the shocking crime. But investigators quickly noticed inconsistencies in his account. He claimed he wasn't at the kennels when Maggie and Paul were killed. Yet a Snapchat video taken by his son Paul moments before the murders caught Alex's voice at the scene. Additional forensic evidence, including blood splatter and gunshot residue, contradicted his alibi. Ultimately, prosecutors presented a motive rooted in desperation. By fabricating a tragedy of such magnitude, Alex hoped to divert attention from his financial misconduct. He wanted to appear as a bereaved victim rather than a perpetrator of a collapsing legacy. But the evidence was overwhelming. In a 2023 trial, a jury deliberated for only 3 hours before returning a guilty verdict, sentencing him to life without parole. In each of these cases, the driving force was control.
And he cries a lot, and he seems sympathetic, but it's something I don't buy it at all. Uh, he's he planned a murder, and I just can't believe that anybody actually feels sorry about anything other than getting caught. Whenever they get caught doing this kind of stuff, it always just blows my mind that they actually think that they can get away with it. And then I guess when you think about other killers like Ted Bundy, he actually did get away with it for a long time. Um, and that's scary too. Like most people aren't going to get away with it, and even the ones that do, eventually they're going to get caught. Hopefully. But I've been working on a Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer kind of comparison video. I kind of, because they're different types of killers, but they kind of are driven by the same forces, and it's kind of interesting to look at them from a statistic kind of point of view, and like the video I'm working on is kind of going on the idea of like who's the scarier killer. Um, and the funny thing is, when I finished it, and if you just go by the stats, I'm pretty sure Ted Bundy's the scarier of the two. But I swear, like the probably a week after I had finished recording it, like I'm still thinking about this Dahmer guy and how he did all of that stuff that he did, and I can't get it out of my mind. It's kind of disturbing. I'm pretty sure I should go back and I mean, I've already written the video, I've already recorded it. I'm just working on the editing right now. Um, but uh, I think Jeffrey Dahmer is the scarier of the two. And I'm also today I was supposed to be writing about the Golden State Killer and BTK. So those are some really scary guys too. Um, but I think ultimately I don't know why I'm comparing them, but it's just interesting to see them side by side and how they were able to evade law enforcement for so long and you know do this. I mean, could you imagine if you're the family of one of these guys, and then all of a sudden one day you find out that he's been killing people, and then you start looking back at all those times where something didn't add up in your mind, and you start to like put things together like, oh, he said he was here, but he was actually out killing someone, and I don't know. I'm I don't know. I've been writing a lot of different things lately, and I'm trying to kind of diversify my channel a bit. And I'm considering trying to do these lives more often. I just really don't know how to do them. I'm I'm a kind of one of those people that just say a lot, so I feel a little weird talk. See, I did again, or I'll say Those are my two favorite things. But if you look at some of my other videos, I know you guys like the Chris Watts stuff. Where is it? Let me go check out my channel. Um, but I know you guys kind of like the Nicole Kessinger stuff that I've been doing. I've actually been writing this story on relationships. It's not really true crime, but if you look at my posts page, I don't know if you guys like the trivia that I do, but I do post trivia fairly often. But the other day I was talking, I kind of made like a story out of how Chris and Nicole met and how it was pretty ordinary. It was kind of an idea that I was having because I was considering talking about work relationships and how they fail and how people get drawn into them regardless of whether they know that they're doomed anyway. And it just happens sometimes. So I mean, if you look at it from that angle, before the murders, it's not, a good thing, but it's not necessarily like a terrible thing. And I don't know where that post is. I think but it's in here somewhere. There's a story that I wrote that I'm considering expanding. I've got quite a bit of like sources already on the relationship stuff, so I can actually talk about it, um, logically. When I write, I get to erase things and rewrite them and try to make them sound better. When I talk live, I don't really get to do that. And it's just like right now, I'm looking for that thing and I can't even find it. So, um, hmm, it's in there somewhere. I don't know if you guys want to look for it. You can definitely look for it. I think it was it a poll? Let's see. Well, I don't know what happened to it, but there will be another. Wow, it posted early. It says I have a published. Um, oh wait, that's not even a real question. Uh, but here in a couple hours there'll be a new trivia. I try to schedule them to post at the same time every day, and I like to go through and look through the stuff and see who's getting what questions right, and these are some of the things that I'm like researching, so I can if people seem interested in it, I might consider making a video on it. Um, some of this stuff is just really interesting, and I've had a lot of fun writing the fact or fiction stuff. I really try hard to make the factual stuff seem fiction like, and vice versa with the and I seem to trick people a lot, I think, unless they know the crime I'm talking about, you know, specifically. Like here's one that sounds really true, and it sounds like one of those stories you've heard from somebody at some point, but it's not. Here it is. The post. The destructive poison of an imaginary love. It sounds like a video already, the destructive poison of an imaginary love. Chris Watts didn't recall the exact excuse he gave Nicole about why they should meet. Maybe something trivial like a burger or fries, but beneath it all throbbed the real reason, the electricity, blah blah blah. But if you like that kind of drama, I'm not going to do too much of this. But I am considering writing a pretty interesting topic on the relationship before the murders, before we see what happened next. And it is important to look at these kinds of things because when stuff like this happens, it's if I don't know if you got friends or like they're at work and they're married and they're having relationships they shouldn't have, these are the kinds of things that can happen. when it goes bad, you know, it's just it's a really good example of what not to do. But anyway, I can see my story, my live stream is kind of boring. It's just because I don't really know how to do them yet, and I I'm not comfortable talking like this yet. But I am trying to keep doing it, trying to push through and learn how to do it, and um, you know, gives you guys a chance to see that I am, a real person. I am really working on this stuff and I am really interested in all of this. I know Timeless Mysteries originally started as a mystery channel where I was actually covering things like, you know, the Bermuda Triangle, ghost ships and ghost stories and haunted places and, ancient civilizations and conspiracy theories. And I don't know, I posted a video on Chris Watts, and because I had a true crime channel before, but I couldn't ever get it monetized, and YouTube and Google wouldn't tell me why. So they said I was violating something, but they couldn't tell me what. And I just kind of gave up on it and started working on this channel instead. And then my goal was to do something other than true crime. But here I am back to true crime. Um, so who do I have in the chat right now? Is there anybody watching or are you just like listening? We can play one of my older videos and see the difference between the work I was doing last year and the the work I'm doing now. Let's see which one is it here. Yeah, this one is actually an interesting story, but nobody.
Of such figures starkly controlled. In the realm of comic books and movies, vigilantes are often depicted as heroes, meting out justice where the law fails to reach. Characters like Batman and Spider-Man
I really
have
like
captured the
I made a lot
imagination of
movies that I hear
millions,
voice.
serving as symbols of hope
But you
and
can
the
see
idea that
I was
one
using
person
Canva
can make a
to make
difference.
these videos.
However, the romanticization of such figures starkly contrasts with the reality of vigilantism, where actions have real and often severe consequences. This dichotomy sets the stage for our exploration of Jason Vukovich, known as the Alaskan Avenger, whose life took a turn that mirrored, in the grimmest sense, the vigilantism celebrated in popular culture.
I believe this guy was attacking pedophiles, and he's in jail. And I wrote about him because I live in Alaska, and it's a kind of an interesting story. I don't think there's any reason for anybody to be attacking anyone um, like that, but you know, at least he wasn't just randomly attacking, not bad people. But
Known for its
the
breathtaking
story is pretty
landscapes and
interesting. The way I
formidable
tell it, I don't
isolation,
think it's as good.
Vukovich faced personal demons and societal failures that eventually led him down a dark road. Unlike the fictional heroes adorned in capes and masks, Vukovich's actions stemmed from a deep-seated desire for retribution, fueled by his own experiences of abuse and a perceived failure of the justice system to adequately protect the innocent or punish the guilty. In June 2016, Vukovich took matters into his own hands, targeting registered sex offenders in a series of attacks that shocked local communities and sparked nationwide debate. His methods and motivations force us to confront uncomfortable questions about justice, vengeance, and the line between right and wrong.
Sometimes um, I thought this was an interesting story and an interesting way to tell the story by comparing it to vigilantes in comic books. Um, Obviously, it failed. It's kind of boring. Um, I don't even know if the guy actually killed anyone. I think everyone survived. Um, but it is unique that he actually was a real life vigilante. He was doing this to well, he thought he was protecting people, but he doesn't know exactly. He had a sex offender list, I think, but he has no really there's no idea which type of sex offenders they are. Oh man, here's a video on Dahmer. This guy freaks me
I
out.
desensitized myself to it.
Ugh.
I don't know. I went to great lengths.
He is pure evil, but you'd never know it by looking at him. But when you hear him, that's another story. His killing field was Milwaukee, and he got away with murder for
Are you
more
guys
than a
familiar with this
decade.
guy,
But how could
Jeffrey
any of this
Dahmer?
happen? For the first
I
time
know
ever,
there's a Netflix
Nancy Glass
series
is
that I
here
can't watch.
inside the world of Jeffrey
I make
Dahmer.
it about halfway
So
through
when
the
I
first
sat down
episode.
opposite Jeffrey Dahmer for this interview, I wondered what
watch
he
it.
would tell me, how hard it would be to get him to discuss his horrific crimes. What I found was that he was very forthcoming. He volunteered details that may be difficult to hear. I began by asking what he wanted from the men he picked up.
I had these obsessive desires and thoughts wanting to control them, to I don't know
Like
how
as
to
far
put
as
it,
killers go, this guy is
possess
just
them
really
permanently.
like
And that's why you
slow
killed
and
them.
methodical.
Right.
He is
Not
not
because I was
rushed
angry with
at
them,
all.
not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me.
Really creepy.
And as my obsession grew, I was saving body parts such as skulls and skeletons.
Jeffrey Dahmer is recalling his monstrous past. Almost 2 years ago,
He
in
was
this little
making
apartment
zombies
in Milwaukee,
also. He was
police
lobotomizing
discovered the
people
grisly remnants of
while
one
they
of
were
the most
alive. He was
horrible
drilling
crime
into their
sprees in
heads and
American history.
turning them
Jeffrey
into
Dahmer, an unassuming
literal
chocolate
zombies.
factory worker,
And then
would
he would use
eventually
them for
confess
whatever
that
he
he had
wants.
seduced, murdered, and
You know,
dismembered 17 young men. He
he's
even
known for
ate some of his victims'
necrophilia
body
as well.
parts.
The
He
zombies were still
instantly
alive,
became the
so I don't
center
think
of
that counts as
worldwide media attention,
is
a serial
really
killer
disturbing.
unmasked. There were protests and press conferences in Milwaukee as people tried to understand how this could have happened in their midst. How did Jeffrey Dahmer get away with murder after murder for 13 years? How did a boy born into a hardworking middle-class family turn into the worst kind of monster imaginable? In this exclusive interview, we put those questions to Jeffrey Dahmer himself.
Thank you. I'm not really great at these lives yet. I guess I should stop it. But this guy is really disturbing. He's so slow. He talks slow. He walks slow. And when he kills, he does it slowly. He doesn't rush anything. He's not worried about anything. It's just really disturbing. And I told you guys a little while ago that I'm working on a Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer story to kind of figure out who's the scariest of the two. Well, when I finished writing it and when I finished recording it, I was, confident that Ted Bundy is the scarier of the two. But I'm pretty sure this guy is like to me at least, the scariest type of killer. He is just so disturbing. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but the guy is just sick. He was making zombies, and it's hard to imagine that somebody would do that. And like, but yeah, and Ted Bundy's no joke either. I mean, he's not so creepy. That's the scary part about him. He actually seems like a regular person. And then I don't know, when I'm writing about it, I actually kind of internalize what it's probably like to see him change. And, as, the world hears about these stories about that Ted Bundy killed these people across several different states, and he did it in basically right in front of everyone without any worry about getting caught. And he loved like changing for these people. I imagine it kind of like if you think about werewolves and full moons and stuff, this guy would just be like talking to you and then, hitting you over the head with a crowbar and then raping you and murdering you and then coming back a few days later to try again. That guy is pretty scary. But I think Jeffrey Dahmer is just so much more creepy, and I just can't detach. Like once I hear that story, I just can't. It's just gives me the creeps. But I have tried to watch the Jeffrey Dahmer Netflix series. It's not really a documentary, but I've tried it like 3 times now, and I can't get through the first episode with that neighbor saying, "Hey, everything smells." That's about as far as I get, and that's like the first 5 minutes. But if you really want to see what the guy's like, I think that actor looks like this guy for real and sounds like him, and he's just really scary. But let's see. Oh, here's the Netflix story.
What's going on?
Welcome to Watch Mojo. And today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 things Dahmer, Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story, got factually right and wrong.
What I did, I should be dead.
For this list, we're looking at what was fact and what was fiction in Ryan Murphy's Netflix series about the infamous serial killer. Are you watching Dahmer? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. How Jeffrey Dahmer was caught. Right. Netflix's limited series about Jeffrey Dahmer begins with the night a would-be victim survived an encounter with the killer.
Help me!
On July 22nd, 1991, Tracy Edwards spent hours in Dahmer's apartment in fear, waiting for an opportunity to make his escape. And though the way in which he escaped is depicted differently in the series, Edwards did hit Dahmer and ran out of the apartment.
I hit him and I ran towards the door, and he was right there, tried to grab me, get me back in there.
2 police officers went to Dahmer's residence to obtain the key to unlock the handcuffs still on one of Edwards' wrists. Once they found explicit photos documenting some of the murders, Dahmer was apprehended, putting an end to his reign of terror.
The officers were stopped by an individual who claimed he was in the apartment and became engaged in a dispute with the owner of the apartment and left the apartment and called the officers.
Number 9. Dahmer wore yellow contacts. Right. One of the lesser-known facts about Dahmer was his strange habit of wearing yellow contact lenses.
You see my contacts? Interesting.
That is something I didn't know, but maybe that's why the guy's so creepy in the show. But this actor, I seen him in American Horror Story. He's a pretty good actor, but he just plays this role too well, and I can't watch it. This makes me want to vomit every time I start hearing about this guy eating people. And he would skin them, he would save the skin, and who does that? But
Just like the emperors. Got him at a costume shop in Kenosha.
He wore them because he felt connected to 2 dark characters in his favorite movies. The Emperor from Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, and the Gemini Killer from The Exorcist 3. In changing his appearance to resemble these powerful fictional figures, Dahmer himself felt more powerful and predatory.
That I actually derived a sort of pleasure from watching that tape.
Did you like feeling evil?
No, I didn't. But I had tried to overcome the thoughts, and it worked for a while, but
he definitely enjoyed feeling evil. I guarantee there's no way he would keep doing it if he didn't enjoy it.
eventually I gave in.
He repeatedly watched the films before he went out to find another victim to bring home, often making them watch the films with him.
What are you going to do?
Told you. We're gonna hang out, gonna watch a movie, gonna take some pictures, and then I'll pay you.
Tracy Edwards also testified that while playing The Exorcist 3, Dahmer was chanting and rocking back and forth.
It was like a slow slur, like some of that nature, some close like that, I'm not sure.
Did it keep on for a period of time?
Yeah, Ed Gein is truly scary also. Anybody that, wears human skin, uses it to make furniture, like, it's just insane.
Time?
Off and on throughout the ordeal.
Number 8. How Ronald Flowers survived. Wrong.
Jesus.
Don't worry, I'm not a cop.
Another survivor of Dahmer was Ron Flowers, who met him when his car broke down and Dahmer offered to help. He took him to his grandmother's West Allis residence and drugged his coffee. But Dahmer is interrupted when his grandmother sees that something is wrong with the young man.
You should take that young man to a hospital.
What? He's just a little wasted, Grandma.
I will not have some stranger dying in my house.
He'll be fine. Just let him sleep it off. Jeez.
No. Something is not right here.
She is adamant about staying with the unconscious guest, making sure he gets on a bus the next morning. But her actual involvement in saving Flowers from her grandson has never been reported. Like in the series, Flowers woke up in County General Hospital.
Where am I? You OD'd. You're lucky to be alive.
But what isn't mentioned is that he was also covered in abrasions and believed he might have been assaulted. He later testified that he didn't know how he got there, though the series provides a fictional scenario.
A guy I met last night, he was weird. He must have slipped something in my drink. Dude tried to kill me.
Number 7. Dahmer posed in yearbook photos. Right.
How did he get in there?
I don't know. Dan, how did you not catch this?
I'm sorry, I didn't see him in the photo.
That's your goddamn job, Dan.
The Netflix series mainly follows Jeffrey Dahmer as an adult. But a flashback to him in high school shows him sneaking into a yearbook picture for the Honor Society, despite not being a member. Yes, he actually did this, and his face was subsequently blacked out of the photo.
That is crazy. I had not heard that before. That is, if I actually had thought of this, maybe I would have tried to sneak into photos too back in high school, because it is kind of funny. But that guy is so creepy. Let's see if I can find a different video. This guy is also very scary.
Bob Hayward, a highway patrol officer from Salt Lake City, sits in his car in front of his house on Hogan Street. He's just finishing his shift when a tan Volkswagen Beetle passes by with its lights turned off. Hayward knows his...
It's kind of hard to consider a Volkswagen Beetle being scary. But when you think about Ted Bundy and the way he got people into that car and drug them off to kill them, it really is it looks pretty creepy too in that context, the car itself.
His neighborhood, and realizes this car is most likely not from here. The officer goes on and checks. The Volkswagen Beetle parks right in front of his neighbor's house. The owners are not home, only their 17 and 19-year-old daughters, alone. He turns on his brights to read the license plate. This startles the driver and he speeds away. Hayward chases him. The driver blows past one and then another stop sign. Hayward has no intention of letting the man escape. A few minutes later, the Beetle finally stops at an abandoned gas station. A man gets out of his vehicle with his hands up. He wears blue jeans, a black turtleneck, and tennis shoes. He has shoulder-long dark hair and smells of weed. Hayward points his gun at him. The man says he's a law student and was at the local drive-in watching Towering Inferno. He got lost on his way home. The only problem is that Hayward drove by the theater earlier. Towering Inferno was not being shown that night. The officer checks the man's car and sees something very strange. The passenger seat is missing. In its place is an open bag with multiple very strange items. A ski mask, a crowbar, an ice pick, a box of trash bags, gloves, a pantyhose, rope, and some wire.
Didn't Ted Bundy escape from jail at some point? I think he did. And, if I was a police officer and I saw these things, I would have arrested him. Like, I wouldn't care. I would just do it. He eventually gets caught with a fake license plate too at some point after, I think it was after he killed some sorority girls.
In the trunk, Hayward also discovers a pair of handcuffs.
I'm going to arrest you tonight for evading an officer, mister. But I intend to ask the county attorney for a complaint against you for possession of burglary tools.
Back at the police station, the man gets registered and photographed. While he had the necessary tools, there was no burglary to directly link them to. But without any evidence, he is free to leave the station on bail. Bob Hayward is suspicious. He is convinced that the man wanted to break into his neighbor's house with those two girls inside. Though it was only much later that Hayward would realize the man he arrested that night was none other than America's most infamous killer, Ted Bundy. And it will take a lot more to finally catch him.
He's not a wild beast to look at or to hear.
Her viciously, biting her.
He was thoughtful, charismatic,
and clubbing her to death.
He was quite personable.
Slow down, my young friend.
Yeah, he is a scary guy. And the people that like flocked to him, they didn't believe that he was really a killer. Like they just couldn't imagine a nice, smart, intelligent, decent looking person could be a killer. And now in 2025, we know that these people are out there and they could be anyone. And I heard that I'd have to look up the actual fact, but I'm pretty sure he did escape twice. And I've been wanting to actually look into how he escaped. Did he like woo some girl into getting his jail cell unlocked and that's how he escaped, or and Cuff, I do agree with you about Dahmer. He was killed within a year. I can't imagine those other people in prison wanting to let that guy live, even though they're all killers and bad guys. Somebody who's eating somebody just probably creeped him out, and I'm surprised he lasted in prison as long as he did, to be honest. But at the same time, I agree that if he had stayed alive, we would probably know a lot more information. But Dahmer is just insane. I can't imagine meeting somebody like him with that personality that he has and actually feeling comfortable enough to have drinks with him at a bar, and it could be just because I'm looking at the situation from hindsight. Maybe if I hadn't known he'd killed, maybe I wouldn't, see these, like, get these creepy feelings when I look at the guy, the way he talks, the way he, like, his mannerisms, all of it just freaks me out. But, and Bundy is like the opposite of that. He draws you in. He's very charismatic. He seems nice. But one thing that's weird about Ted Bundy is that he also would fake injuries to get help from pretty girls, and then he would lure them into his car and take off and go kill them. He wore fake casts. He would ask for help. He seemed like a friendly guy that's just like needed something, and people just want to help him, and they have no idea that he's going to kill them.
Think you can touch the sky. Where did it all go wrong?
kind of, mumbling idiot.
Theodore Robert Bundy was born on November 24th, 1946. He's a smart boy and grows up in a relatively normal working-class family.
I grew up in a wonderful home with two dedicated, loving parents.
He was raised by his, I think his aunt, who was actually his mother or something. He had a kind of a weird, childhood because of that, I think. But otherwise, he was pretty normal. He's got relatives that have talked about him and how he was, pretty ordinary.
One of 5 brothers and sisters. A home where we as children were the focus of my parents' lives, where we regularly attended church. 2 Christian parents who did not drink, they did not smoke, there was no gambling, there was no physical abuse or fighting in the home, but it was a fine, solid Christian home.
But not everything is all right with Ted. From as early of an age as 3 years old, he does strange things. When his aunt is sleeping, he arranges kitchen knives around her. When outside playing in the forest, he frequently takes apart mice. When swimming, he more than once tries to drown others. He never shows any signs of guilt. For a few years,
Yeah, I don't know. I've got a thing where I compare him and Chris Watts together just simply because they're the guy next door. And I think they're Ted Bundy is definitely kind of a sociopath. He doesn't have the empathy, but because he's so smart, he actually understands empathy better than if he could actually feel it. And he uses that against you. So, that's why the fake casts on his arms and, asking for help worked, because he understood those things so well that he could manipulate you by doing it that way. It's hard to understand how somebody can understand empathy without feeling it. But I kind of imagine it like an AI. I know I use ChatGPT a lot for stuff, and I, ask it for information or how to write a letter to, so and so. And it understands things that it shouldn't be able to understand. And I think, these type of people kind of, they can understand it without feeling it, based off of other information that they've gained. It's the same with AI. It can't actually feel anything, but it knows responses, and it's got all this other information that it uses to tell you what to do or say in the best way. And you could test it out yourself. Just open up a chat GPT, say, hey, I want to write, I want to say something to someone, but I don't know how to say it, and have it be something about feelings. And it'll tell you exactly, some romantic thing to say that it shouldn't be able to understand, or, what to say if somebody tells you, they're grieving for something and how you're supposed to respond. It's got all these answers that it shouldn't be able to understand or give you, really, other than just it understands, the responses and how they're supposed to be. And that's what Ted Bundy does. And he's really good at it. I think, if you're going to be like an emotional genius without understanding emotions, he was the guy that could do that. He just understood people and their reactions and human nature in ways that nobody else does. And that's how he can act so ordinary. He probably is going through the motions with how he reacts to things, but he doesn't feel that he should be reacting that way. But he knows that if he doesn't, it's gonna come across as something else, and he's not gonna get what he wants. And Ted Bundy pretty much always got what he wanted.
he and his mother live together with his grandparents. His family is religious, his grandfather a deacon. But the grandfather is also abusive and violent, a racist wife-beater and collector of violent porn. Despite all this, Bundy adores him and regularly peeks into his collection. Ted is intelligent and good-looking, but he is also very shy. A loner who is often bullied at school, he sometimes has serious outbursts of rage and does not quite fit in with the other kids his age. During his first years at college, Ted is insecure and has almost no social life. A positive memory for him is when he buys a 1968 tan Volkswagen. It gives him a sense of freedom and independence. Over time, Ted Bundy builds the perfect mask. He appears as a confident and charming young man now, graduates in psychology, starts dating girls, and attends law school. But he doesn't care much about the law himself. As a teenager, Bundy had a lengthy history of theft. When he turned 18, it was wiped. But the desire to commit a crime grows and grows inside him. On February 1st, 1974, Bundy breaks into a student's home, abducts, and kills his very first victim, Linda Ann Healy. Bundy's victims are always attractive young women. He approaches them in public places, faking an injury or disability and luring them to his car. When his charm and good looks convinces the women that he's no threat, he beats them unconscious. For the bodies, he has a place on the floor of his tan Volkswagen, right where the passenger seat used to be. He drives to a secluded location where he brutally rapes, strangles, and kills them, often not even stopping there. Every month, more and more women disappear, first in Washington, then in Utah. The public is afraid. The police are desperate. For a very long time, nobody has a clue who did all this or how to find them. Before Ted Bundy, the term serial killer simply did not exist in people's minds. His facade is always well maintained. He even briefly works for the Seattle Crime Commission and writes a rape prevention pamphlet for women. Bundy knows exactly how to not leave any evidence. DNA tests were not yet invented, and even if the police would find something, departments at the time rarely shared information across state borders. But on November...
See, I think in today's, with all the modern surveillance systems everywhere, somebody like Ted Bundy wouldn't be able to kill the way he did back then. He would just pick people up at a gas station and go kill them. And I know right before he got caught, he killed two girls in a sorority house and attacked two more. He raped one of them, and those four women were attacked and raped, and two were killed in less than 15 minutes. And after he left, he decided to leave before the cops showed up, and he goes down the street and he tries it again in another house. So I think, he's like killing all these people, and somehow he needs to kill even more people every time he kills one. So it was just a matter of time before he actually got caught for good. He was losing control.
November 8th, 1974, Ted Bundy makes a crucial mistake. He leaves a witness. If these murders had happened today, the hunt...
I think she told them that his name was Ted, and they had been looking for a Ted, which I think is kind of interesting. He would just confidently give his real name to these people, expecting him to be killing them soon,
For Bundy might have ended much sooner. Fingerprint matching and other computing techniques have transformed police work over the last decades. Data science is relevant in countless fields today, and it's not magic. Brilliant can be a great first step to get your foot in the door. With Brilliant, you learn by doing, engaging with thousands of interactive lessons in math, data analysis, programming, and AI. Hands-on problem solving is up to 6 times more effective than watching videos. What are you doing here? Sorry. That's why Brilliant's courses encourage you to explore different concepts creatively. And the best part, you don't have to dedicate hours on end for learning. You can learn whenever, wherever. To try everything Brilliant has to offer for free for a full 30 days, scan this QR code, 74 maroon Camaro, onto the parking lot of a Sears mall. She parks under a light and walks into the building. Carol is looking for books and stands just outside of Weldon's bookstore when a man approaches her. He introduces himself as Officer Roseland from the Murray Police Department. He is polite and well-dressed. Someone was trying to break into your car, he says. then asks the woman whether they should check if anything is missing. She agrees, and they both go back to the parking lot. Carol looks into her Camaro, but everything is there. The police officer tells her that the suspect is back at the police station. If she joins him, they could file a complaint. Carol smells a slight whiff of alcohol and starts feeling uneasy, but the officer shows her a badge and she agrees to come with him. They go to the officer's vehicle, but it's not a police car. It's a tan Volkswagen Beetle. Maybe he's undercover.
If a police officer smells like alcohol and asks you to get into a Volkswagen Beetle, say no.
Carol thinks. She feels a bit nervous, but gets into the car anyway. A few minutes later, the man stops the car at an elementary school. He suddenly grabs her arm and handcuffs her. Carol starts screaming when he pulls out a gun. Carol is terrified. Luckily, she realizes that her handcuffs aren't attached to anything, so she grabs the door and quickly jumps out of the car. The man chases after her and pulls out a crowbar. He hits the woman once, twice, but Carol holds up her arms in defense, fighting for her life. Another car is approaching. Carol manages to...
It's hard to believe that somebody could survive getting hit with a crowbar, and she's very lucky that she did.
Break loose, runs away, and jumps into the other car. She goes straight to the police and reports the man who introduced himself as Officer Roseland and his Volkswagen tan Beetle. Bob Hayward is so unsettled by the man he arrested, the next day he mentions him to his brother, Captain Pete Hayward, a homicide detective. The detectives at the Salt Lake County Sheriff's Office immediately recognize the car. A year ago, a woman in Seattle reported suspicious behavior by her boyfriend. She saw an eyewitness drawing from a kidnapping that looked just like him. The woman's boyfriend also had a tan Volkswagen.
I don't think that looks like Ted Bundy at all, that drawing. Maybe the eyes kind of do.
10 women have gone missing, and the man is on the list of suspects. The detectives start connecting the dots and invite Carol to police lineup. 8 suspects in total are standing in line, including the man Bob Hayward arrested a few weeks ago. When Carol DeRanche sees them, she immediately identifies the fake officer. On March 1st, 1976, Bundy is sentenced to 15 years in prison for the attempted kidnapping of Carol DeRanche. The investigation picks up pace, and the police manage to connect him to another case, 23-year-old Karen Campbell. In October 1976, Bundy is sent to Colorado to stand trial again, this time for murder. If only his story ended here. In his second trial, Bundy decides to defend himself in court. He is a law student, after all, on campus. The parties have mostly ended, and the local nightclub is closed for over an hour now.
This is one of the more interesting cases. I actually mentioned it a minute ago, where he actually attacks and kills and rapes. He rapes 1, attacks 4 people, kills 2, and leaves all in 15 minutes and goes and tries it again at another house down the road.
Nita Neary comes back from a date with her boyfriend. When she tries to enter her sorority house, Chi Omega, she notices that the door is unlocked. She enters and finds that the lights are still on. A few seconds later, she hears a loud noise from upstairs, followed by footsteps. A man comes rushing down the stairs. He's holding some kind of club in his hand. He hastily opens the front door and runs outside. Nita wakes up the others, and they soon realize a monster has been in their house. 4 young women have been assaulted. 2 of them will die. In the following,
one of the survivors had her jaw broken in like 5 or 6 places. They were severely beaten, and on the victim that died, who had been raped, they actually got like Ted Bundy had bit them so hard that it left like a teeth imprint on the body, and they actually used that as evidence to charge him with murder.
following weeks, Ted Bundy tries abducting multiple women, but always fails, until he finds 12-year-old Kimberly Leach. The girl is out in the rain. She is running across a basketball court to another classroom at her school when Bundy signals the girl to come over. She does. David Lee, a patrol officer from Pensacola, sits in his car when an orange Volkswagen passes by with its lights turned off. Lee knows his area well and realizes this car is most likely not from here. He follows the driver and checks the license plate. The car is stolen. Lee turns on his police lights and the car starts to speed away. But David Lee has no intention of letting the man escape.
I think it was actually the car wasn't stolen; it just had he had stolen license plate on the car.
A few minutes later, the Beetle finally stops. Bundy must have had a strange feeling of deja vu at this point. This time, Bundy will not just get out of the car with his hands up. He will not say he's a student who watched a movie and got lost on his way home. This time, Bundy decides to fight. He gets out of the car. The officer points a gun at him. When the officer tries to cuff Bundy, he hits him in the face, kicks him off his feet. The officer fires a warning shot, and Bundy runs. Lee, now running right behind Ted, fires another shot, and the man falls to the ground. But Bundy hasn't been shot. It's a trick to grab the officer's gun. He fails. The officer hits Bundy with his pistol.
See, it just blows my mind. How does he think about doing these things? Like, pretend to get shot when the gun goes off? Like, how is he not terrified of being shot? There's just something that doesn't work in his brain the way it does in everyone else's that allows him to do these things the way he does. It's hard to understand at all how it's even possible.
And manages to arrest him. The hunt for America's most infamous killer has finally ended.
But yeah, so I'm working on a story about these. It's not quite as good as these ones here. As you can see, the video quality for this is pretty awesome. These are they use After Effects to get the images like that, and it's pretty hard to use After Effects. If you make videos at all, you probably know what that is. But let me see. Try to find like the Ted Bundy story that I've got. I don't know if I'm sharing that. It doesn't look like I am, but the intro, because I'm talking about two killers, is pretty interesting. It's two killers, two distinct brands of evil, and two horrifying legacies. And the intent of this topic is to actually look at the crimes and not just like kind of scuff over the actual details. I'm trying to show the actual horror that happens when these people kill, because when you look at somebody like Ted Bundy, you just can't imagine it until you like actually look through these details. And I really don't enjoy talking about the details. I like trying to understand how the guy's brain works more than anything else. But when you see how violent the man was, you can't unsee it. And no matter how good his smile is in the pictures and stuff, you just can't see a smile that's real. The guy is not normal at all. But I'm also working. That one's written. It's been recorded. I'm just editing the video. The BTK one, it's a little bit different type of story. These two killers, they killed more people. They're very similar styles, kind of way they kill. They both torture people and kill them. But, I kind of go over the details of why they're different and why it's important to note how they're different. But yeah, I've been working on a lot of stuff, and I'm I'm trying to like schedule this stuff so that it comes out. I can plan it better and let you guys know what's coming out. But sometimes I start working on a project and then it gets set aside because it's too hard to process in my head or something. So, um, I just have to kind of just go with it until I try to get a video out every week. As you could, if you look at my library, you could see that I've got more videos now. And let's see. And ever since I started recording the audio, it's taken me longer to make a video than it did when I was using AI videos. With the AI audio, you have to go through and like phonetically spell words. You have to like, there's a lot of stuff you have to do, but it still like takes a lot less time to edit that than to actually go through on Adobe Audition and listen to everything and then like cut out the pauses and try to make cut out the mistakes and stuff. But I don't know. I still like want my best video. It's an AI voice, and I
God to
wonder,
whom he
wonder if it
endlessly.
would do as well.
Chris Watts, his letters from jail.
If I had
Is he
recorded with my own
admitted
voice.
that he actually killed his daughters not once but twice.
I think the AI voice is what sold the story.
Inmate 674796, more commonly known as Chris Watts, now spends his days within the walls of Dodge Correctional Institute.
I spent a lot of time working on that video as well. But anyways, thanks for watching. I really am going to try to do more of these live streams and actually have a plan about, when I get on here. I just don't know what to do or say or how to do it yet, but I will. I do watch a lot of live streams, so I know how other people do it. I just don't know how to feel comfortable myself and make the video. So, but I appreciate you guys watching. And I hope you guys go through and watch some of my other videos. I just posted a video on Saturday. Please watch it all the way through. I don't know what happened, but somebody watched it like 700 times and didn't watch it the whole way through. And I've got like a watch time of like 19 seconds. And that means YouTube's going to not show it to anybody else because they think that they're clicking in but not watching. So just let it play. And that would be awesome if you could do that. But until next time, guys, I'll see you around. Have a good one.